Okay, so thank you everyone for tuning in. I really appreciate it. As always, I want to start with my presentation, short prayer, then we'll open it for a Q&A, some updates. I want to say a few words about the tectonic shift or the paradigm shift that is occurring right now in the Israeli, I guess, politics, and then I'll move to the Bible study. So let's start. Oh, Jesse's joining. One sec. Okay. So my baby is was helping me around. He found a flashlight and he managed to open it on his own and figure out where the batteries are and all that. Something that I couldn't figure out myself, by the way. So it's a good thing that he was helping around. We're October 19th, actually. Oops, sorry. Okay, so let's start. I want to start with, again, the faces of the people that were massacred on October 7th. You look just these really beautiful people that give so much light to this world. This young woman, Shira Elon, 23 years old, that was killed in that music festival. The one on the right is Arik and his daughter, which has cerebral palsy, I guess that's how it's called. Her name is Ruth, and everyone knew them in the rave scene or in the trance scene and these music festival scene. People knew about them. They were always there. She really loved the atmosphere and the music, and her father actually took her to these festivals, danced with her. So just take a look at these amazing people that were just taken by these terrorists. It's really unreal. This is a meme that I got earlier today. In Gaza, there is no water to bathe children. In Kibbutz Be'eri, the one that suffered, I think, more than 100 casualties, there are no children to bathe. So again, the inhumanity of this attack is just unreal. Again, this lady from my neighborhood, that some of her family members were missing since October 7th. Now they figure out that two of them were killed, Carmela and Noya Dan. I think it's her aunt and her granddaughter. I didn't ask her, but I think that's what we see here in this photo, Carmela and Noya Dan. Noam Dan, that's my neighbor. It's just really horrific. And the Israeli army published earlier today that there are so many people that still today, almost 2 weeks after the massacre, they're still not identified because they were mutilated so badly. I just aware of that because of things that I hear from friends and all that, that they're just taking DNA from family members in order to figure out the remains. So this is still going on, and I think there are more than 200 bodies that were not identified yet. More than 200 bodies. It's just unreal. And earlier today, they found a 5-year-old that was burned to death in some attic. Really like Holocaust type stories. So this horror is really, we don't fully comprehend the levels of horrors that were going on. Still, it's going to take probably months. A friend of mine from Melbourne sent this picture earlier, and this is an ongoing campaign all over the world. People are printing the photos of the people that were kidnapped and trying to make a greater awareness of the situation. So all the people that I just showed you basically are the people we're praying for. So we are going to read Psalm 11, and you're welcome to follow the English. I'll read it in Hebrew. למנצח לדוד באדוני חסיתי, איך תאמרו לנפשי נודי? הרכם ציפור, כי הנה הרשעים מדרכון קשת, כוננו חיצם על יתר לראות כמו אופל לישרי לב, כי השתות יהרסון, צדיק מה פעל, אדוני בהיכל קודשו, אדוני בשמיים כסאו, עיניו יחזו, עפעפיו יבחנו בני אדם, אדוני צדיק יבחן ורשע ואוהב חמס, שנאה נפשו. ימטר על רשעים פחים, אש וגופרית ורוח, זרעפות מנת כוסם, כי צדיק אדוני צדקות אהב, ישר יחזו בנימו. So once again we have this word for violence in verse 5. The Lord examines the righteous, but the wicked, those who love violence, Hamas, he hates with passion. Okay, so again, every Psalm chapter basically is the most relevant thing in the world on every day of our life, and this is no exception. Okay, I'm going to stop here, opening it for Q&A, and then we'll continue with the updates. Thank you, Joanne. Appreciate it. So,
Itamar,
yeah, go ahead, Noah.
Yeah, I just wanted to repeat my question. So, what do you think of Achim Vaneshek as a target for donations?
As a target for donation, okay. Achim Vaneshek, the Brother in Arms, is an organization that started somewhere earlier this year as a part of the protests against the government and the judicial reform. And this is basically, I didn't read their entire biography, their entire history, but basically it's an organization that is comprised with Israelis that serve in reserve, and the reserve army is crucial for Israeli defense. Okay, so the reserve army in Israel since the very beginning of Israel, since 1948, basically. And this is a policy that was designed by Ben Gurion. He basically said we cannot have a big army, an army big enough for all the threats we have. So our model is going to be that we're going to have an army, okay? The basic army won't be too big, but we'll have enough people serving in reserve until pretty late age. I know people that served in reserve way into their 50s. I remember my father was serving in reserve, I think, until he was 50 or so. I'm 39 and I'm still serving in reserve. So that's basically a lot of Israelis. And just like now, in times of war, hundreds of thousands are being called, and that's what you see here. So these people that are serving are basically taking the burden of the security of Israel. So some people will say, oh, but you're like elitist, you think your voice or your vote worth more than others. And they say no, but we still carry the burden of the security of this land. We're still leaving our families for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks at a time, some even more, to serve in the Israeli army in order to keep this country safe. So when we demonstrate against the government,
I'm listening.
Yeah. So when we demonstrate against the government, it's not because we don't accept the legitimacy of an elected government in Israel. It's because we know what is the danger of the judicial reform that is being presented by the government. Okay, so so this is again the origin of this organization. Now, as a target for donations, like you said, I must say from what I read and what I hear from friends, from journalists that I follow, from just facts on the ground. So from all indications that I have, they are the people that run the show. Their massive operation that was formed and forged during the year of the protests is now helping Israelis wherever they are, whether they're soldiers, their families, taking care from every little need that we're talking about, from when it comes to supply and complete the equipment for soldiers in reserve in the fronts, or taking care of their families or wives or children, and taking care of babysitters and all that. They are running the show, and they are functioning, I don't know, like 10 times better than the actual ministries in charge. So when I guess you donate to them, you're donating to the people that actually support all the citizens and reservists that are in need, and it's a quite embarrassing situation, okay? Because the government doesn't function very well for whatever reasons. Okay, I'm not going into it right now, and civilians with initiative are basically helping out. So if you want to help directly to these citizens, I guess this is the fastest way to do it, okay, through Brothers in Arms, Achim Laneshek. There are a few other options that I presented on my Facebook page, and also it's in our WhatsApp group. Basic things like Magen David Adom, okay, the emergency services, health services. There are a few other options I can't remember right now. So no, I'm just saying that they are a legitimate organization in the sense that they're actually helping. Okay, it's not like your donation goes to waste, but it's quite embarrassing, I must say, that the Israeli government doesn't function well enough, and they need this civil organization to do that. Noach, I hope I answered your question.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Welcome. Anyone else before we move to the updates?
Hi, Idamar.
Hey, James.
How you doing?
Very
Question:
well.
Why doesn't Egypt allow these refugees in their country? I mean, they do control one of the border crossings, and Gaza used to belong to Israel, right? I mean, sorry,
yeah, to Egypt.
It was part. Yeah. So why are they resisting as well? I mean,
yeah. So there is a historical reason that I mentioned maybe a day or two ago, that Egypt historically wanted, like any other Arab country in the Arab League, they basically wanted to use the Palestinian refugees, again from 48, as a leverage against Israel. They want to keep the Palestinian refugees in a camp in the mandatory land of Israel, so that there will always be a demographic threat to Israel. So basically the claim was these refugees ought to go back to the land of Israel and basically change the demography of it, and it won't be a Jewish state if there are, like, I don't know, 40 or 50% Arabs. It will lose its Jewish identity. So this is like historically the reason. There's another reason that I heard from a friend of mine that is an actual journalist, that Sisi, the president of Egypt, was basically saying something like something along these lines. Okay, if these refugees will end up in tent cities, basically in Sinai, then they will initiate terror attacks on Israel from Sinai, and then Israel will have to retaliate and attack in my country. See? So this is the logic that he has.
Okay, that's a very good reason. Do they consult with, because I know Egypt has diplomatic full relations with Israel.
Yeah.
I mean, do they tell the government? I mean, I don't know, what's the Israeli government position on this? Do they see, yeah, you have a point, good point, but don't let anybody out?
Okay, so I don't know what's going on in the actual discussions. Okay, I'm not sitting in these rooms. Yeah. Okay, but this whole, again, the conversation that we're having, that's actually the problem. Okay, so when we're talking about two countries, okay, de facto state called Gaza Strip. It's a de facto state. It's not recognized. It's not in the UN, but de facto, it's a state since 2007. Okay, it's an effective government. There's borders. There are people. There are institutions. They have army. It's a de facto state on one side, and then on the other side there's Israel. Okay, so we have a war between two countries, and for some reason, people think that anyone else should take care of these civilians. Israel should take care of the civilians. Egypt should take care of the civilians. What about Hamas taking care of his civilians? You see? So this whole idea of, okay, let them go to Sinai, where is this coming from? It's coming from our strange thought that we are the one that should take care of the civilians of our enemies more than they should take care of their own people. See? So again, whatever reason Sisi has, the president of Egypt has, I'm sure it could be very convincing. Okay, but we should change our thoughts about it. I mean, the people who are responsible for the civilians in Gaza are the elected party called Hamas. They were fair and square elected in 2006. 55% of the parliament was Hamas. The Palestinian people in Gaza and the West Bank voted for Hamas to take care. I think they took pretty sure more than 50% of the parliament. I think it was in the neighborhood of 55%. They were the elected government of the Palestinians. For whatever reason, okay, Mahmoud Abbas, okay, Abu Mazen, the president of the Palestinians, did not really accept the outcome of it, and he kind of, I don't know, froze the action or the activity of the parliament in 2006. And then in 2007, Hamas said, okay, we cannot control the West Bank right now because Fatah and Abu Mazen are too strong over there, but we're gonna take over the Gaza Strip. And that's what happened in 2007. So de facto, Hamas is actually a democratically elected government. Again, 2007, it's not like they had an election since then, but since then they are the elected government, and they should take care of their own people. And all these, who's taking care of the Palestinian civilians? Like, okay, what about Hamas? See? So just a thought. James, does this answer your question, or do you have any follow-up?
Yeah, answers my question. Yeah, but those elections were considered free and fair.
It was under Bush. It was under Bush. It was really. I think it was the most fair elections in the Arab world at that time.
Well, James, one thing just to keep in mind is that Hamas is an outgrowth of the Muslim Brotherhood, right? So the present regime,
they're from Egypt.
The movement in Gaza is based on a common ideology with the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. So Morsi, who was expelled from government in favor of Sisi, who's presently in control, was closely allied with Hamas. Sisi, who's in control today, he hates them, just like he hates Morsi, right? So for him, any influx of people from Gaza potentially is an influx of Hamas, which is a strengthening of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is his natural political enemy.
Just one caveat over there, Noah. I'll just say one little thing about what Noah said. Sisi, as far as I am aware, is a pretty religious Muslim, very devout Muslim. Okay, so it's not exactly that. He's not exactly like we had Jamal Abdel Nasser and Sadat, and then later Mubarak. Okay, they were pretty much like the secular Arab nationalists that we had since the 50s. Okay, Morsi is slightly different, but I'm not super familiar with the Egyptian politics, so I'll stop here. But just this little caveat. Go ahead, James.
Well, how did Morsi get deposed? Was it a fair election, or
no? He was thrown by. It was a military coup. It was a military coup.
Okay, was the United States behind that?
No, it was an inside coup. As far as I'm aware, I'm not aware that the United States.
See, that's the problem, because there's no. I mean, if the majority of the people want a government made of Hamas that wants to, I guess you could say the people of Gaza really. That's who they want, and I mean,
look, it's not just there. That's the point. Like, people really miss that. I heard some Palestinian spokesperson. I'm not sure exactly what's his position. Anyway, he was a pro-Palestinian speaking at Piers Morgan the other day. Bassem, someone. He's from Egypt.
Was it a comedian?
No, not the comedian. No. So anyway, this guy said something like, "There is no Hamas in the West Bank," which is absolutely not true. There is Hamas all over the West Bank. There's Hamas in East Jerusalem. I see their graffitis. I see like their banners. They're here, and they're a populist movement. Unlike other, I would even go as far as saying this is a organic part of the national Palestinian movement. Okay, more so than even Yasser Arafat. When you think about the PLO, it was an Egyptian basically invention in 1964. We're talking about an organic, a grassroots kind of organization that really grew from the Palestinians themselves. Okay, so it's not like it's this the Yasser Arafat from Egypt and his gang from Tunisia ending up in the 90s in Israel. It's nothing like that. They're really grassroots kind of movement. So they really reflect the sentiment of the Palestinians. And let's stop here. Any other question from any of you? I want to move to the updates. Thank you, James. But we'll have more time if you have a question. I just want to keep it in a certain pace. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. We're praying, of course, for our soldiers that will prevail. And I want to show you a few photos of reservists. These two pictures I took myself earlier today. I told you that, I mean, so many hundreds of thousands of reservists were called. So every now and then they go back home for 12 hours, for 24 hours, for whatever time. And that's how it looks like. So in the streets of Israel, this specifically in Jerusalem, you'll see people with their weapons and taking the children to the kindergartens or just shopping, whatever. So that's really how it looks like. I will also say that people really, they are all over the social media. So on the left, there is a food truck that was created for the elevation of the spirit of a soldier from my neighborhood, Moshe Duino. So I actually know his mother. So Moshe Davino died in combat in Gaza in 2014 in the Protective Edge military operation, and they commemorate him in all different ways. One of their ways to do that is to bring sandwiches to pupils, to school children that are coming from poor background, and they take care of their food and lunch at school. This is one of their projects. So over here, they had a food truck for the soldiers. That's on the left side. On the middle side, in the center, there's a lot of that, a lot of TikToks and Instagram videos that basically shows the reservists, speak with them, who are they, etc., what do they want. This guy said that he's a plumber. They ask him, who are you? And he says his name. And then, what is your profession? I'm a plumber. And what do you want to do? I want to, and you can guess what he wants to do with a pipe. Okay, so just again, I don't want to swear here, but we're talking about very angry people, I would say. Then on the right side, there is a sign that says F them, okay? But if you look at the word on the right side, it has the decoration in Hebrew, like in Hebrew Torah, okay? We have all kinds of decorative way to write the letters, okay? So this is it's like a massive contrast because they used a font that is actually used in the Torah in order to say F them, okay? So that's what you see here. Again, just shows you again what's happening on the ground. Over here, a friend of mine, Yuval, he uploaded a photo of Aron Kodesh, meaning an ark of a synagogue with a Torah scrolls in it. Okay, it belongs to the rabbinate of the Israeli army. So you can see a box of bullets over here, 5.56, and you can see the ark with the Torah scrolls in them. And he's quoting Napoleon that's saying there are two forces in the world, the sword and the spirit, and in the long run, the sword will always be defeated by the spirit. Okay, so that's again the ark of a military synagogue that is just out there. On the civil front, I would say, a friend of mine posted, we left Ashkelon this morning and are now in Eilat, which is in the far south of Israel, at the Red Sea, for a few days. It's great to see my girls relax after a week in the bomb shelter. Okay, Ashkelon is very, very close. It's a city, the closest city to, a big city, I would say, to Gaza Strip, a bit north of Gaza Strip. So Ashkelon got hundreds of rockets during the last 2 weeks, and now they can relax in Eilat. So she's happy to see her girls relaxing. And on the right side, another person posted, these are all people I know. How can you get a therapist for 9.3 million people? I'm asking for a country I know. So over here you can see Israel on the couch of a therapist. So this is what a lot of people in Israel feel right now, how to deal with this trauma, how to deal just with the horrors. Even people that didn't watch the horrific videos they published, the terrorists published, just the description of what happened, the horrors that happened, it just froze us back to the dark times of the Holocaust in World War II. This is my sister. My sister, like many other Israelis, wanted to find a creative way of volunteering. So my sister is a very beautiful woman. She's 2 years older than me, and she's a stylist, and she loves cats. So that's one of her cats. And what can a stylist do in times of war? One might ask. Okay, so she said that she invites everyone to call her to rearrange their closet. Okay, so rearrange the closet in such a way that it will help the women basically dress up in the morning in a nice fashionable way, and not to have a closet full of clothes that they don't wear. Okay, so the women here, I assume, could relate to part of that. I'm just guessing. So that's a lot of what she's doing. She's a stylist. She goes to people's home and she helps them find the right style, the right size, and she goes and shop with people. That's what she's doing. And this time she said, okay, let's get your clothes out, okay, and we can donate them to families that are displaced now because they live in Gaza envelope in the war zone. We can find all kinds of other stuff to just donate to people in need right now. So this is what she's doing at the moment. Okay, her eyes, of course, it's a filter or whatever, but yeah, you can check her out. Her name is Irit Magoa. She's just amazing. Okay, I want to say a word about the humanitarian crisis. I mean, it's kind of what we talked about earlier, so I can do it briefly. This is a meme that I saw earlier that Hamas is holding the hostages, which are Jewish babies and Palestinian babies at the same time. Basically, that's how this terror organization work. So when we're talking about the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, that again, it's not like I have data. I just assume it's not good over there. Okay, I don't know what is the meaning of it right now. What I do know is that after Biden's visit, there was an agreement in a way to allow humanitarian aid to southern Gaza, and many Israelis are outraged by that because it's like, why do we capitulate to that? I mean, yes, they have humanitarian crisis, which is their own making, and we shouldn't give them even 1 liter of water before we know what's happening with our hostages, and we shouldn't support their population before we get all our hostages back. Okay, so the families of the hostages and many other Israelis are extremely upset by that. So we'll see how it turns out. A bit of humor. Since the attack, for quite a while, until pretty much recently, there were no schools and kindergartens until like the last maybe couple of days. So a person posted, if by Sunday, okay, I just remind you, the weekend in Israel is Friday, Saturday. Okay, so Sunday it's actually a work day. So if by Sunday there are no kindergarten schools, the parents will invade Gaza. Okay, we'll have the ground attack on Gaza. So the parents would be so upset that anyway, you get the point. And on the right side, it's a criticism against the government. Basically, it says anyway, we are at home with a dysfunctioning father, a free control mother that is alcoholic. That's referring to Netanyahu, which is dysfunctioning, and the mother is Sarah, his wife, which is allegedly an alcoholic person. Okay, and then now we are at we're in foster family of an American couple. They refer to Jill and Joe Biden, and the uncles from Europe are coming to consult what should they do with us. So, like, the people of Israel feel they don't have a leadership. That's the point. Okay. And that's it. Okay, so if there are any, these are the updates. If there are any questions, once again, if any of you has to leave but you want to ask your question before that, then you're welcome. Don't be shy, please.
Just wondering if any of the hostages have been released.
Any hostages released? No.
Yeah, not one.
No.
Okay.
And I was just I just learned earlier today that there is a girl, 3 years old girl called Abigail, that I'm not sure what happened to the rest of her family, but she was kidnapped. She's alone in Gaza. It's unreal. I mean, the level of cruelty is just unreal. Just imagine, 3 years old, alone in Gaza, kidnapped into Gaza, doesn't know anyone. Horrific. Anything else, my friends? Okay. Okay, so we're moving to our Bible study. No, sorry, before that. I wrote a few comments about the failure and this whole collapse that happened on October 7th and what led to that. So I wrote a few remarks. I don't think we're going to come to a conclusion right now, but I just want you to have some highlights of what happened. And this is coming from thoughts I had earlier and a few other commentators that I kind of embraced their thought because I think they're pretty accurate. And some of it is even from my experience in the army. So one of the failures is that paradigm of Netanyahu and many of his supporters and at the moment coalition members, but even before that they supported that idea to keep the political entity of the Palestinians separated. The West Bank run by Abu Mazen and the Gaza Strip by Hamas, and looking at Hamas as an asset to Israel, because as long as Hamas is there, we won't have to negotiate for peace. So this paradigm completely collapsed. This whole idea that you can nourish a terror organization as fanatic as Hamas and buy quiet, basically, with Qatar funding and sponsoring, with a few tens of millions of dollars every month, cash entering Gaza Strip as if it's really helping the civilians. It was all, of course, for terror. So this whole idea of buying quiet from Hamas by doing so, it was a complete failure. So that's one. Again, I won't say that there's more to say about every thing that I'm just mentioning, but this is just for now. Okay, so this is one thing. The other thing is Netanyahu, he broke a policy, a very long time policy of the Israeli government as a whole, or administrations as a whole, to have the bipartisan support of America. So whether it's the Democratic Party is in charge, the Republicans are in charge, always maintaining and keeping good relationship with both parties and making sure we get their support and keep the American interests in this region. And Netanyahu broke this idea. He thought that he can support the Republicans, he could side with the Republicans, very aggressive against Obama, later mocking Joe Biden. And this was an utter failure of his policy. This whole idea of neglecting the bipartisan support of America was and people warned him in real time, about it. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is America. It's not like you have another option. That's the point. He was like started to mingling with China, stupid things like that. Okay, so this is also another massive failure of his policy. The third one is what I mentioned earlier about the judicial reform, tearing the society apart basically around this very, very controversial and very loaded topic, and doing it. It's not just, okay, it's like I can support a reform in the judiciary, okay? It's not a problem for me to say that, okay? Yes, there are things that need to be reformed, but just to laser focus only on that for the last 10 months and neglecting every other aspect of the life of Israel, and like, I don't know, security, policing, housing crisis, cost of living, all neglecting every aspect and just laser focus only on the judicial reform and neglecting everything else. And while doing that, upsetting the reservists, upsetting the pilots, upsetting every, like half the society here. What benefit is that? Okay, so clearly it's because of his trial that is going on and because of specific coalition members that also want the judicial reform. All of that was a complete failure again. So there's no problem in promoting a reform. I'm for that. But to just laser focus on that for 10 months and neglecting everything else, that's unacceptable and unexcusable. Another bad thing that was going on for many years with the Likud party and Netanyahu is nepotism. Appointing people that are just not qualified really for many of the ministries. It just proves itself to be like, we believe in meritocracy basically. Okay, so we want the best people on the job, especially if it's public servants, and he broke that, he breached that, and we actually see that collapse real time. Okay, we actually see the ministries not functioning. We see how the money from the government doesn't go fast enough to the right people, which are the soldiers and those who were evacuated from the Gaza area. So it's just complete collapse in real time, and it really weakened the institutions, okay, the ministries basically. Then there are two other aspects. One is to believe that your defense line, in this case in Gaza, won't be breached. Okay, this whole idea that you can build a super wall with Gaza that prevents them from, digging tunnels, and everyone that gets near the border is just detected. You can actually shoot them. There are all kinds of robots that can shoot them. All this idea that that your defense line won't be breached is just, historically speaking, not even on this case, it's just always wrong. The Maginot Line, the Bar Lev line in Sinai, it's just known in military history. Always, when you have a line of defense, it will always be breached. So you constantly have to think and use intelligence and use enough people on the ground to reassess all the time. Okay, we have a static wall or a static fence, but things aren't static. The terrorists learn exactly how the defense line works, how fast we respond, and all that. They just learned that, and that's it. They found the right way to breach it. Paragliders, it's ridiculous. Okay, like you just jump over the wall. Ridiculous. Okay, so this whole paradigm of thinking that once you build a massive wall with Gaza, it won't be breached. It's just ridiculous. Okay. And another thing is that, and this is a part of his whole idea of how he can keep himself reelected, not to engage in serious wars. Okay, kick the can down the road. Basically, I mentioned that earlier too. You can buy quiet from Terror Group, but one of the reasons he did that is because he didn't want to have soldiers as casualties. Okay, he didn't want to bring dead soldiers back home. Okay, so he said that once you have too many funerals, basically, you can't get reelected. Okay, so he always tried to minimize these clashes and somehow prevent them or postpone them, whatever. Again, kicking the can down the road. And as he is doing that, the army, the infantry, basically, the land army, okay, infantry, tanks, and all that, were kind of neglected, and a lot of investments, like the army budget, basically went to the Air Force and to the intelligence, and the infantry was neglected. So when you just focus on intelligence and Air Force, and you're not on the ground, then it will be a failure, because there is so much intelligence you can gather, especially when your opponents, when your enemies, Hamas in this case, knows that the intelligence is so powerful. Okay, so they dumb it down. Okay, they say, okay, they can find us whatever radio system or communication system we use, so we have to be as primitive as possible, and then we'll be invisible to them. That's really what happened here. So this over-reliance, like relying too much on just Air Force and intelligence and not on basic, ground army, the land army, infantry, tanks, etc. That was another paradigmatic mistake. So this is the list that I made about it, and I hope it helps just to understand kind of like what led to this failure. It's a failure of many years, basically, that was building up into this moment. So it's not like just, oh, someone fell asleep in the operation room. It doesn't work like that. Not in this colossal failure. Okay, so we're talking about years of Netanyahu being in power, and everything that he does, his paradigm shift, his policies, all of that collapsed in one day. Okay, so if there aren't questions about that, fine. And if you want, if not, then we can just move forward to the Bible study. I'm doing something a little different than what I did so far. And by the way, you can always write to me on WhatsApp, on private messages, things that are of interest for you. Okay, so far, for example, I was only talking about Tanakh. Tanakh is the Old Testament in Christian Bible, but we just call it Tanakh. So far I just spoke about verses and chapters from the Tanakh, but if you are interested in New Testament stuff, then I can always work with that too. Just write me. I'm just trying to accommodate. So that's it for now. Okay, so I want to talk about I want to read a few passages, and then I want to talk about the word nekama, which means revenge or vengeance. Okay, I wanted to explain something about it. Okay, so let's read these few passages from these two parts of the Torah that speaks about the curses on Israel. Okay, so there's like since the days of Moses, we have a threat that if we don't keep his commandments, really bad things going to happen to us. Okay, so let's check it out. Leviticus 26. And I will bring, it's pretty long, by the way. In each chapter, just like, don't read it before bedtime. Let's put it this way, okay? It's not nice. And I will bring the sword on you to avenge the breaking of the covenant. Okay? When you withdraw into your cities, I will send a plague among you, and you will be given into enemy hands. Okay, so just focus on that word, okay? Avenge the breaking of the covenant. So the question is why God has to avenge the breaking of his covenant. So what I'm trying to show you is that the word avenge, nekama in Hebrew, is not something emotional. It's not an emotion. It's not that negative emotion that you want to hit someone back. Okay, avenge, the whole idea of revenge in this biblical context is to make justice. Okay, to make justice. So it's not necessarily very emotional. There could be emotion involved, I guess, but definitely when it comes to humans. But it's actually to make justice. Let's continue. Yet in spite of this, when they are in the land of their enemies, when the children of Israel are in the land of their enemies, I will not reject them or abhor them so as to destroy them completely, breaking my covenant with them. Because they broke my covenant, I'm avenging that, but I don't want to break the contract that I have with them. You see? So it just goes to show you that God is not so, I mean, he looks angry, the curses are pretty serious, okay, but he doesn't want to break the contract. God doesn't want to break the contract with Israel. They broke it, they're going to pay for that. But it's just a matter of that justice system of God. Okay, let's continue. Breaking my covenant with them. I am the Lord their God. Okay, now, again, every now and then in the Christian translations, I see things that I just don't find in the Hebrew, so I put it in this clause, okay? But for their sake, I just didn't find it, okay? I'm not sure where did it come from, so let's put that aside. Then the Hebrew says, I will remember the covenant with their ancestors, whom I brought out of Egypt in the sight of the nations to be their God. I am the Lord, okay? So again, it goes to show you that the word avenge, nekama in Hebrew, has a lot to do with justice and not with that negative emotion, I would say. Let's continue. And Deuteronomy 28 is one of these two chapters of the curses on Israel for being disobedient. Don't read it before bedtime. Let's continue. The Lord will bring a nation against you from far away, from the end of the earth, like an eagle swooping down, a nation whose language you will not understand, a fierce-looking nation without respect for the old or pity the young. Okay, so when I read through Deuteronomy 28 earlier, I didn't find the word revenge. Okay, but I just found this very relevant, I guess, description of. It's hard for me to say if it's Babylon or Rome. Okay, it's a prophecy of Babylon or a prophecy of Rome. But anyway, we're talking about a fierce-looking nation without respect for the old or pity for the young, which is pretty much describing Hamas in a way. So I just want to share that point with you. Okay, so again, our focus is on the word nekama, revenge, and let's move forward with that. Okay, so I'm not mastering English. It's not my mother tongue, okay? But maybe you will be more sensitive to that. So there is the idea of being revengefulness, okay, to be revengeful, vindictiveness. Okay, these are I looked at the dictionary. These are the words that came with that. These are not the words that I'm talking about. Okay, these are these kind of beastly emotions, negative emotions that doesn't express what revenge or vengeance in the Bible is. Okay, because revenge or vengeance in the Bible has a lot to do with justice. It's not with that negative emotion. So just two examples for that. David spares Saul's life in En Gedi. It's a famous story in the book of Samuel. Saul, just the context, okay, David defeats Goliath the giant. Everyone is like happy with David and praise him and all that. And then Saul, which was the king at the time, started to persecute David. He really wants him dead. And then at some point in a cave in a place called En Gedi, it's in the Judean desert, very much near the Dead Sea, David kind of captures Saul, and he can kill him if he wants to, but this is what he says. May the Lord judge between you and me, and may the Lord avenge the wrongs you have done to me, but my hand will not touch you. Okay? So judge, okay, avenge. It's just really, in that context, you can clearly see that although David has all the reasons to kill Saul for persecuting him unrightfully, okay, he says, you are the Messiah of God. You are anointed by God. So I'm not touching you. It's not my job to avenge or to make justice with what you did, okay? After what you did to me. It's God's work, okay? God will avenge the wrongs you have done to me, okay? So it's very clear in this passage that avenge, or nekama again in Hebrew, has nothing to do with these negative emotions, but with making justice. And then we go to Jeremiah. Sharpen the arrows, take up the shields. The Lord has stirred up the kings of the Medes, because his purpose is to destroy Babylon. The Lord will take vengeance for his temple. Okay? So in Jeremiah 2, Babylon and Assyria, these empires that exiled Israel and later exiled Judea, okay, they are a tool in the hands of God. Okay, so now God is punishing them. Okay, he's punishing them for whatever reason. Okay, but you can see that it's a part of his judgment system. The vengeance is just a part of him making justice. So why did I bring it up? Okay, and I looked at the Bible like in a concordance. It's just fascinating to see the use of this word. Some people in the media are basically saying, okay, the Israelis got, I don't know, whatever, 1,500 casualties, 1,700. I'm not sure. I mean, at the moment, the official number is 1,400, but we have 200 people kidnapped in Gaza. It will take time to understand the actual number of casualties, and some people are saying it has to be a proportional response. The military action in Gaza should be proportionate. There are already whatever 3,000 or 4,000 casualties in Gaza itself. Many of them are civilians. Again, this is I'm just kind of quoting. I'm not sure again if these are the actual numbers, but these are the what I hear every now and then when I tune online. So it's not about that. People are saying Israel is trying to revenge their people. Okay, so you already got the body count. You don't have to invade Gaza. That's it. You killed some of us, and that's it. You should just fall back and send the reservists back home and end with that. And again, it's just not to understand what war is about and what this particular war is about. It has nothing to do with the number of bodies. Just nothing to do with that. It's about fighting evil. It's about making justice. It's about making this world safe. It's about wiping evil. Okay, this is really what is going on. So all this talk about proportional response and okay, it has to be reserved and all that. It's just where is this coming from? Okay, where is this coming from? And you can even make a point that it's always Israel is always the one that should be proportional. Okay, so but it's coming from, again, it's part of a propaganda. It's part of a propaganda that trying to weaken the public opinion, to turn the public opinion around the world against Israel. And Israel is not, the way I see it. I'm speaking with people. Many people are, of course, angry, but it's not about the being revengeful and like this negative emotion. It's about making justice, making things right, preventing any attempt of any terrorist around the world. We'll send a message to these terrorists from Iran to Yemen to Iraq to Syria to Lebanon. We'll send them a message that if you are acting in such a brutal way, you won't deserve to. You're going to be annihilated. This is what is this revenge is all about. Again, the biblical word revenge. So I'll stop here, and if there are any questions, you are most welcome. Yeah. Chris, I'm not so sure if the Septuagint explains it.
I have after you spoke about Cain and Abel, and you recognized that there was this difference between the English text where it said that Cain was kind of, telling Abel to come with him in the field, which was not in the Hebrew. And then I went, because I thought that, the English translation really indicates that Cain was planning on this by luring Abel into the field. And I thought, wow, I have to look that up. So I went to the Interlinear Hebrew Bible, and indeed it wasn't there. So then I was thinking, how come that the English translation has that in it? And then I asked my husband, who did biblical Hebrew and biblical Greek at university, about this. And he said that's probably because the Septuagint is used in some places because it's the older version of the original Hebrew. And then I asked him to look it up in the Septuagint, the Cain and Abel passage. And indeed, the Septuagint has this thing in it that Cain tells Abel to come with him into the field. And for those who don't know, the Septuagint is a Jewish translation of the Hebrew Tanakh that is older than Christianity. So that was, I don't know how you say that again.
Septuagint.
Yeah, so it's just that you have these ancient biblical manuscripts. You have them in different versions. You have a lot of them, and part of the science is to compare the different versions of the biblical manuscripts and find out which is more likely the original version. And then this is what then Bible translations look for. So there are different English Bible translations, and I guess also these different English Bible translations use different
manuscripts.
Sorry for my.
That's okay. So,
but I was just thinking, because you just mentioned when you say, well, you put this in brackets, this passage, and you were just saying that you don't know, you couldn't find it in the Hebrew. So I just thought maybe this is another example that this is something that's in the Greek.
Sure. Yeah.
And not in the Hebrew.
So I'll just say a word about the Septuagint since you brought it up. Septuagint, it's the first translation of the Torah, meaning not the entire Old Testament, but just the 5 books of Moses. It was translated under the Greek successors, basically, of Alexander the Great, somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 BC in Alexandria. So Septuagint is the 70 or 72 wise men from Jerusalem that were sent to Alexandria so that the king Ptolemy will have the Torah, the law of Moses, basically, in his library, the famous library of Alexandria, because this is like the background story. Now they translated, and it's very well documented. Like, people know, it's just the letter of Aristeas speaks about it. We know for a fact that there was such a thing. Okay, there was such a thing that the Torah was translated by Jews to, again, just the Torah, not the prophets and the writings. The Torah was translated by Jews into Greek, but the original Septuagint of the actual 70 people was lost. So we don't really have that. There was a fire in Alexandria. We don't really have that. The original Septuagint doesn't exist. What we do have is translations to Greek by mainly church fathers, basically, that call it the Septuagint because I guess it gives it a certain credibility. But there are a lot of differences between when I read the Hebrew Bible and then I read translations, I'm like, what's going on? So I'm just confused. So it happened to me earlier when we talked about Isaiah 53. So there's a lot of Christology that is in the Greek version of the Bible, and this Christology just, I mean, I'm sure it serves the church, but it's just when you read the Hebrew, it's just not there. So I'll just say that the original Hebrew text does exist, and it was found in Qumran. It was found in Qumran. All the scrolls of the Bible, beside the Book of Esther. When I say the Bible, I mean, of course, the Tanakh. All of them were found in Qumran, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and all of them predates Christianity by 100 or 150 years. So we do have it. So when I read Isaiah 53, I have a friend, a Christian friend of mine, and we read together from the scroll of Qumran all kinds of passages that he told me, oh, that's the version. I said, look, let's just check Qumran. I don't mind. And we just found that the original Hebrew that we have, I mean, the Hebrew Bible, the way we have it today, is pretty much identical to what is going on in Qumran. Not 100%, but 99 probably percent or so. And that's why when people bring up the Septuagint to point out these the differences, I have to just warn you about it, that there's a lot of changes in the text, and the original Hebrew does exist. It does exist in Qumran, which was just found. So that's a little thing that I want to share with you, Chris. Sorry for the confusing Torah and Tanakh. Yeah, okay, that's fine. So Tanakh is the entirety of the Hebrew Bible, meaning from Genesis to, in the Christian Bible, it's the book of Malachi, the prophet Malachi. But when again we're talking about the Septuagint, the Jews back then translated the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, to Greek. I assume we do have I assume that Jewish community is speaking Greek in Egypt or Asia Minor. In the 1st century BC, they had translations of the entire Bible, entire Old Testament into Greek. I'm pretty sure they had that, but it's not like these manuscripts survived. Okay, so just to warn you about that. Warn you in the sense that if you want to know the original Hebrew, then you just have to either learn Hebrew or use the interlinear that you mentioned. I'm not very experienced with that, but just wanted to share that with you. Okay. Thank you, Chris. Manuela, Justine, James, Joanne. Thank you very much for joining. Joyce, Emily, Chris again. Thank you very much for joining, for tuning in. I hope these sessions of prayer and Q&A and updates, I hope this gets you more connected with Israel, with God, with and with the what's actually happening. I hope you don't watch too much news. I don't want your soul to be affected by that more than it already is. I'm trying to minimize my exposure. I told you that my son really helps me with that. He keeps me busy. So for the purpose of the updates, I do check out the news, and I'm trying to bring you things that, again, from social media, from my friends, from all kinds of circles, that I'm just trying to reflect to you what's happening in Israel. And in a way, in the updates, I'm trying to give you more hope than despair. So I hope it goes through. So this is it.
Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom, since we won't
Thank
see
you. Oh yeah, you're right. This is Thursday, so I will put a link or two maybe tomorrow, just things for you to watch or think about, and that's it. Thank you very much. Again, this is for my mental health. This is very helpful. I'm a tour guide, I'm a teacher, so I just having you guys that I can share some thoughts with you. This is a massive blessing. So I really appreciate it, and all the best, really. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.